from a prepared presentation. I don't have a prepared presentation. I'm winging this. So if I jump around a bit, bear with me, because there are things I need to talk to you about and share with you that I may not have exactly in front of me. When the study was concluded in 1964, they knew at that time, they had concluded at that time, that there were roughly 4 of these advanced extraterrestrial high-technology civilizations that were interrelating with us. The most exciting part of that, you'll notice that I begin to perspire a bit when I'm talking about highly classified things and realizing that the military police could be running through the back door at any moment. But I'm too damned old to worry about it. If they want to put me in jail, that's fine. I challenge them to put me in jail, because then we'll have a trial and I can subpoena all of the evidence. But they concluded in '64 that there were 4 of these groups. Now, I have learned since from people who are in the inside, people I trust, that there's not only 4, there may be more than a dozen, and some estimates that there could run as many as 100 different groups. And Wendell Stevens' research concludes with that same finding, that we could be dealing with high-tech extraterrestrial intelligences in the hundreds of different kinds of people from different places. I'm not sure we'll ever know. Well, perhaps in the years ahead we will. But the most exciting thing and the most threatening thing to the military commanders of SHAPE at that time that really got to them, really stimulated their paranoia, and as you all know if you were in the military, paranoia is the name of the game. That's how we're trained. We're trained to be paranoid, which is part of our job. But the most exciting aspect of all to me was the fact that one of these groups, one of the 4, looked exactly like we do. And I mean exactly. So much so they could put on a suit and a tie, sit next to you in a restaurant, sit right beside you in an airplane, or sit right next to you in a hall just like this, and ladies and gentlemen, you would never know. You would never know unless they wanted you to. And generally speaking, they don't want you to. But there have been a few cases where they have shared that information. But now, if you think this didn't upset the generals and the admirals in 1964, I remember over lunch one day there was a comment brought up that, my God, that means they could even be here in the NAFI cafeteria, sitting down having lunch with us, walking up and down the SHAPE corridors. Some wag said, my God, they could even be walking up and down the corridors of the Pentagon. And some smartass who'd had a bit too much wine says they could even be wandering around in the White House. And there was a lot of forced laughter about that. But it really didn't strike them as terribly funny, the idea that there could be intelligent, humanoid, human aliens in our midst. And boy, if they had known then what we have learned since. That was only the beginning. Another thing that had been concluded, and this was a conclusion that the military people, our military, knew when I left the service in 1976. I retired at the Presidio of San Francisco in 1976 after 27 years of service. And at that time, it was quite apparent to some of our scientists and some of our researchers that we were not simply dealing with a simple extraterrestrial problem here. We weren't simply dealing with visitations from interplanetary intelligence. We were dealing with visitations from interstellar intelligence. We were probably dealing with intelligences intergalactic in nature. And the most stunning thing of all was, very probably and most likely, that some of these advanced intelligences were literally multidimensional in their origins. And some of them apparently, and we had evidence to support this, literally could indeed travel in time. Now, if you think that wasn't a hair-raiser, a blockbuster for some of our military planners, it was really getting their attention. Not only are we dealing with interstellar, intergalactic, but we're dealing with multidimensional beings who apparently can indeed travel in time. And a little later on this afternoon, you're going to be honored by a presentation of one of the top people in his field who I greatly admire, who's going to explain to you that some of this is not off the wall, far off kind of science. This is real. This is not only practicable, but it's probably happening right now. So I've made that point. And I have to honestly tell you that in my studies for the last 30 years, to try to get some kind of an overview, to figure out what really is going on here, it began to dawn on me that there was no single scientific discipline that was applicable here. You couldn't just look at this from the hardware. You couldn't look at it from atmospheric physics. You couldn't look at it from a single discipline. And as you know, most of our great scientists are very well focused in their field on a single discipline. And that's the field they know, that's the understanding they have, that's the research they've done. And so many of them don't look around and look at some of the other disciplines. Well, it dawned on me as a student of history that I had to look at this a bit differently if I was going to make any sense out of it at all. And as Raimundo said in my introduction, I have put together what I like to call a synthesis. Over the years, I have combined history, philosophy, theology, literature, science, anthropology, geology, mythology. And I feel that I have at least begun to reach something in the way of an answer as to what's taking place and what's going on here. And I'm not taking a great sense of pride in this, but I feel that not too many other people have done that. To look at it from all of those various separate disciplines. It's like putting a jigsaw puzzle together. It's like putting a mosaic together, or again, after you've dropped it, and the bits and pieces are all over the floor. It's very painstaking, it takes time, but eventually, slowly, you put these little bits and pieces together, you put the parts of the jigsaw puzzle together, and you begin to get a picture. And now I'm going to share with you what I have concluded seems to be happening. Now I want you to understand something else here. I am not a prophet, I am not a preacher, I'm not proselytizing, and I don't want any of you people to leave the room this afternoon believing anything I have said simply because I said it. That would not be what I wanted to accomplish. I want you to leave the room, hopefully with a heightened sense of curiosity, a heightened interest, and enough curiosity to go out there and inform yourselves. Don't take my word for it. Don't let the government con you or lie to you. There's information there that is available. Some of the finest information in the world is available. And I think my wife Cecilia has probably prepared a couple of handouts on suggested, recommended reading lists. And those are simply books that I have looked at and concluded are worth looking at, or worth reading. So take some of those reading lists with you, and if you read nothing else, these things are always beyond me. If you read nothing else, read Timothy Good's book, Above Top Secret. Tim is a friend of mine, and I have a great admiration for him. And it's rather thick, but it's the one single book that each and every one of you need to read. And if you haven't, you must do so. And it'll give you not only the history, past history, but current history, and it's material in there that is really out of this world. So read Tim Good's book, Above Top Secret, and you're well on your way. Now, as I have said in my notes, what the hell is really happening? The big approach has been for years, who are they? What are they? Where are they from? And why are they here? Well, I have to tell you that that has now become secondary in my research. I'm still curious and I'm still interested. But that research has led me into